Welcome to the Dale Lolley Show here on the DK Pittsburgh Sports Podcast Network. I'm Dale Lolley, and it is finally here. The Steelers will open their preseason action today. That will be Saturday at 7 p.m. at Acrisure Stadium. They'll host the Seattle Seahawks. And boy, couldn't wait for this one to get here. We're finally going to see a game here. And I thought I'd go over some of the players that I will kind of be keeping a close eye on in this one and some of the reasons why. First up for me is going to be Mitch Trubisky, the Steelers starting quarterback. And the reason I'm going to watch him a little more closely than I'm going to watch, say, Kenny Pickett or Mason Rudolph, well, because he's going to be the starter. And so you want to see how he looks out there with ostensibly mostly a first unit. It's going to be the first team offensive line, maybe a couple of other skill position players sprinkled in there. But, you want to see Mitch Trubisky go out there and look sharp, maybe lead a scoring drive, something along those lines, just to kind of show people that he can be the starting quarterback on this team. My next guy is Jalen Warren. I've talked and written a lot about this guy, the undrafted rookie free agent out of Oklahoma State. He would be the talk of this camp, if not for George Pickens. That's just the reality of it. Warren has been, let's face it, Najee Harris hasn't practiced in almost 2 weeks now. So Warren has been the Steelers' best running back in this training camp. And so it'd be good to see what he looks like out there. Can he do that against another team? And he should get some run behind the Steelers' first team offensive line. Next guy up is Anthony Miller. I've talked a lot about him as well. He's a former second-round pick of the Chicago Bears. I thought he was making a lot of plays early in this training camp. Kind of slowed down a little bit here over the last few days, and that's kind of allowed Miles Boykin to kind of maybe close the gap on him a little bit here. But Miller's an intriguing guy, can play some special teams for you, is a true slot receiver, which Boykin is not, and that may serve in his favor on this team. We'll see. But I'll be keeping an eye on number 17, Anthony Miller. I want to watch Buddy Johnson as well. The fourth-round pick last year, really kind of got a redshirt year last year for the Steelers. But, he's going to play a lot of the inside linebacker in this game. And so I want to see how he looks out there. Is he impactful? He's a potential down the road replacement for Devon Bush. If he's not re-signed next year, Buddy Johnson could step right into that role. Or do they have to start looking elsewhere? But I'd like to see Buddy Johnson out there being active, getting after things, making some plays out there, looking good in coverage, maybe making some special teams impact as well. With the fact that they released Ulysses Gilbert, waived him injured earlier this week, kind of gives you an idea of, how they're feeling about Buddy Johnson. He's making some plays out there. We're seeing Mark Robinson, a rookie this year, making some plays out there as well. So we'll see a lot of those two probably in the second half, Buddy Johnson and Mark Robinson. So I want to see number 45 and 93 out there making some plays. Number 50, Delante Scott, is another guy that I want to see out there. The Steelers they've liked what they've seen of him. He's a long, lean edge rusher, 6'5", 246 pounds. And so, can he hold up against a run? I think that's a big question for him. He's been making some plays in terms of, pass rush. The Steelers have liked what they've seen out of him in that regard. But does he hold up against a run? You're not going to see Alex Highsmith. You're not going to see TJ Watt in this game for sure. So Delante Scott should be a guy who gets quite a bit of snaps, or quite a few snaps in this game. He's number 50. Keep an eye on him. Kendrick Green, number 53. Everybody knows that one. He was the team's starting center last season. That didn't work out for him so well. They moved him over to left guard. And as I've been saying now for the last few weeks, or at least the last couple of weeks, he's been winning that starting left guard job from Kevin Dotson. Now, Dotson's, got hurt this week. He has an ankle injury, and that kind of opened the door for Kendrick Green, as Mike Tomlin said the other day to him, one dog, one bone. But Green was winning that job anyways. even when Kevin Dotson was out there. So I want to see him. Green has been opening some holes in the run game, especially here in the last week. So let's see if he does that again here. And the Steelers are continuing to run the football behind number 53. Devon Bush is another one I want to see go out there and see how he performs in this game for obvious reasons. He hasn't made the big splash plays in this training camp, but he hasn't been bad either. You haven't really noticed him a lot in coverage because, well, the offense isn't really throwing on him all that much. He's held up well in one-on-one drills. You want to see him make some plays out there. And so if he can do that, I think that would go a long way towards, well, maybe getting some fans off of his back. I know you hate him. You think he's a wasted draft pick. You're never going to change your mind on that. He's not a bad football player. He was obviously had a down season last year. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about that. He just wasn't good last year. Let's see if he can bounce back and do it this year. Number 78, James Daniels, is another guy that I want to see out there. The Steelers gave him money, gave him a 3-year, $26.5 million deal as a free agent. And he hasn't looked like that kind of player thus far in this camp. I just want to see, has it been a situation where, in one-on-one blocking, Jeff Hardings at one point, early in his career and really throughout his career, didn't look good in one-on-one blocking drills, really struggled in those kind of situations. Maybe Daniels is that kind of player as well, and you get into a game situation and he starts to shine. That's something I want to see here. Isaiah Loudermilk, number 92, is another guy that I'd like to see go out and make some plays. Coaching staff has raved about him and the progress that he's made in year 2. Now, maybe that's something that's happening in the classroom. I'd kind of like to see that on the playing field. I'd like to see him go out there and make some plays in this first preseason game. And, because he's going to get a lot of playing time. You're not going to see any of the starting 3 defensive linemen out there, but you should see a lot of number 92, Isaiah Loudermilk, out there in this game. Likewise, you should also see number 98, DeMarvin Leal, play a lot in this football game. He's the highest drafted defensive lineman by the Steelers since 2014 when they took Stephon Tuitt in the second round. He looks the part. He's got a nice base and is athletic as an edge rusher and interior edge rusher. I want to see where they use him, first of all. Is it just a defensive end in the 3-4? Does he only play in the nickel on the interior? I want to see that. So that will be interesting in watching this game and keep an eye on that. And my final guy I wrote about and is the lead to my program, to my preview piece for this game. Connor Hayward has made a lot of plays out here. Number 83, the Steelers coaching staff seems to really like him. They're moving him around quite a bit. So I want to see how they use him, how he's deployed in this game. Can he get free in some of the matchups against linebackers or defensive backs? He's done a good job of that thus far in this training camp. Can he do that against another team? Those are some players on the Steelers I'm going to be looking closely at in this game. I'm going to take a break. I'll be back with more. This is the Dale Lolley Show on the DK Pittsburgh Sports Podcast Network. Be back with more right after this. Welcome back to the Dale Lolley Show here on the DK Pittsburgh Sports Podcast Network. I just ran through a bunch of players that I'll be keeping a close eye on in this game Saturday night at 7 p.m. at Acrisure Stadium. But there's one other thing I'm going to be keeping a very close eye on here in this game, and that will be Matt Canada's offense. What does this thing look like? It was easy to say that, the Steelers couldn't do a lot of the things that they wanted to offensively last season in terms of player movement, pre-snap, and even, some post-snap stuff with jet sweeps and things of that nature, because they couldn't do it with Ben Roethlisberger out there because he just wasn't very mobile as a quarterback. Couldn't, be under center a whole lot, things of that nature. Well, that's excuses out the window now because, well, Canada's got the guys that he wants to run that style of offense. How much of that do they show in this game? Or do they keep things pretty close to the vest? Do you see a lot of motion, pre-snap motion, and jet sweep action? We've seen a lot of it at training camp. We've seen a lot of jet sweeps and things of that nature. We've seen a lot of pre-snap movement, double tight end shifts and things like that. How do they do that in this preseason game? Do they want to show a lot of that in this preseason game? Or do they keep things kind of just vanilla and just kind of, have the quarterback stay in the pocket? We've seen a lot of movement of the pockets and things of that nature, where you have the quarterbacks rolling out and moving around. Or do they just keep things tight? Do they play this like a card game and just kind of bluff their way through this? They only have 3 preseason games, so you have to show a little bit of that stuff. You have to work on it a little bit against another team, but you don't want to show all your cards before September 11th when you go and play the Cincinnati Bengals. So I'll be keeping a close eye on that as well in this preseason game. It should be interesting. We saw a lot of it last year at training camp, and then when they got into the games, not so much. Well, I think that changes this time around. I think you start to show a little bit more of what you're going to be if you're Mike Canada running that Steelers offense. Should be interesting. I'll keep an eye on that. Of course, so I'll have a complete rundown of the game. I'll be there along with Dejan Kovacevic. He is back from Europe. Also, we'll have Chris Hallecky will be there as well, giving us a rundown, and we'll give you a full everything that we typically do with our game coverage here at DKPittsburghSports.com. You can read that on the app or on the website. In the meantime, that'll do it for today's Dale Lolley Show here on the DK Pittsburgh Sports Podcast Network. I'm Dale Lolley. We'll talk to you again soon.